Something that really stuck out to me about this race was the competition between both Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz. And I think this was highlighted for me because while I was in Miami, I listened to James Vowles actually speak at the fan zone. And one of the things he was asked by a fan was the difference between their lineup with Carlos and Alex and their previous lineup with Alex and Logan. And something that he actually spoke on is something that I've been talking about for a while, which is that human beings, regardless of their position in life and what they do, are always going to perform better when under pressure from someone else. Carlos is a race winner and comes from a higher level team and also comes with a higher expectation for him himself because of those moments, which resulted in Alex really performing better than he ever has this season so far. And now that Carlos is getting a little bit more comfortable with that car, in Miami we saw a change in that dynamic and that pressure that comes from the teammate pairing. Carlos actually outqualified Alex, coming in P6 with Alex coming in P7. But then during the race, we see them being told they are free to race. And then later on in the race, we find out that Alex was told not to pass his teammate. And instead, we saw Alex ignore those team orders and actually pass Carlos. And ultimately, Alex ends up finishing this race P5, with Carlos finishing behind him in P9. Williams has had a really shocking kind of turnaround, but it also means that you have two drivers right now that didn't necessarily expect to be in a good fighting position. However, there's this mentality that I think is a little different when you look at both of them. For Alex, he hasn't had a car that he could drive like this before. And so competing for that mid-range slot, for that P5 in the Constructors' Championship, and even just ending up in the points in those top 10 slots every week, that is a huge change and a huge upgrade to what Alex has been experiencing. On the flip side, Carlos is coming over from Ferrari. He is a multi-race winner, and he was fighting for P1 in the Constructors' Championship last year. While the Williams team progression, this car development, and the changes that we're seeing is incredibly impressive for them as a team compared to last year, and of course compared to a number of previous seasons, it is still a step down for Carlos. And so I think the mentality of the two drivers, it's actually quite interesting to see how it works, because Alex can taste this new change. A win for him would be a first, and in his entire career he has only had 2 podiums total. Carlos, by comparison, has 27 podiums to his name. And so when you look at how these two drivers are going to respond to how they're running, being in the middle of the pack and having a car that actually is functional, it's two separate mentalities. One of them is closer to victory than he's ever been, and one of them is still dealing with a sort of fall from grace. And so I think what we're seeing is that Alex is actually becoming more and more competitive with his own teammate in a way that is actually positive, but does result in things like this where he is willing to go against team orders for his own benefit. And it's a really fine line that they'll have to balance. Is this a situation where they do need to reinforce team orders and this idea of teammates and working together? Or is Alex trying really hard to prove that he really deserves to be the first driver, the prioritized driver? Because right now, Alex actually sits P8 in the Drivers' Championship. And of the 37 points that William has scored, 30 of them belong to Alex.